Hi guys, I hope you enjoy my beautiful location. I'm house sitting right now, so at my parents' house. Anyway, I got my drink this time to read chapters 4 and 5. So it's sparkling, that little sparkling soda from Costco. Also, there's a dog here, so if you see a dog swimming, this is Baloo. That's normal. He likes to swim. All right. So chapters 4. Also, they live on a golf course, so if you hear people talking, that's also why. And I'm gonna get closer so you can hear me. All right, chapter 4. The matter was solved for her. The McCuskos were not yet there, and she had scarcely spread her peignoir when two men, the man with the jockey cap and the tall blonde man, given to sawing waiters in two, left the group and came down toward her. "Good morning," said Dick Diver. He broke down. Look, sunburn or no sunburn, why did you stay away yesterday? We worried about you." She sat up and her happy little laugh welcomed their intrusion. "We wondered," Dick Diver said, "if you wouldn't come over this morning. We go in, we take food and drinks, so it's a substantial invitation." He seemed kind of charming. His voice promised that he would take care of her, and that a little later he would open up a whole new world for her, unroll an endless succession of magnificent possibilities. He managed the introduction so that her name wasn't mentioned, and then let her know easily that everyone knew who she was, but were respecting the completeness of her private life, a courtesy that Rosemary had not yet met with the same professionalism save. One second, the dog's eating something. Okay, I'm back. The dog threw up, but he's okay. Anyway, okay. He managed the introduction so that her name wasn't mentioned, and then let her know easily that everyone knew who she was, but were respecting the completeness of her private life, a courtesy that Rosemary had not met with save from professional people since her success. Nicole Diver, her brown back hanging from her pearls, was looking through a recipe book for Chicken Maryland. She was about 24, Rosemary guessed. Her face, I made that face because I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I guess they made a bad hit and they just yelled. And now the dog's getting in the pool. A lot of things are happening while we're reading this. Her face could have been described in terms of conventional prettiness, but the effect that it made had been made first on the heroic scale with strong structure and marking. As if the features and vividness of brow and coloring, everything we associate with temperament and character, had been molded with Rodin-esque intention, and then chiseled away in the direction of prettiness to a point where a single slip would have irreparably diminished its force and quality. With the mouth, the sculptor had taken desperate chances. It was the Cupid's bow of the magazine cover, yet it shared the distinction of the rest. "Are you here for a long time?" Nicole asked. Her voice was low, almost harsh. Suddenly, Rosemary let the possibility enter her mind that they might stay another week. "Not very long," she answered vaguely. "We've been abroad a long time. We landed in Sicily in March, and we've been slowly working our way north. I got pneumonia making a picture last January, and I've been recuperating." "Mercy, how did that happen?" While it was from swimming, Rosemary was rather reluctant at embarking upon personal revelations. One day I happened to have the gripe, and I didn't know it, and they were taking a scene where I dove into a canal in Venice. It was a very expensive set, so I had to dive and dive and dive all morning. Mother and I had a doctor right there, but it was no use. I got pneumonia. She changed the subject determinedly before they could speak. Do you like it here at this place? They have to like it, said Abe North slowly. They invented it. He turned his noble head slowly so that his eyes rested with tenderness and affection on the two divers. Oh, did you? This is only the second season that the hotel's been open in summer, Nicole explained. We persuaded Goss to keep on a cook, and a garçon, and a chausseur. It paid its way, and this year it's doing even better. But you're not in the hotel. We built a house up in Tarms. The theory is, said Dick, arranging an umbrella to clip a square of sunlight off Rosemary's shoulder. The dog literally came right here to shake itself off. Go lay down. Go find your spot. Baloo, sit. Lay down. Sorry for all these interruptions. The theory is, said Dick, arranging an umbrella to clip a square of sunlight off Rosemary's shoulder, that's all the northern places, like Deauville, we picked out by Russians and English who don't mind the cold, while half of us Americans came from tropical climates. That's why we're beginning to come here. The young man of Latin aspect had been turning pages of the New York Herald. Well, what nationality are these people? He demanded suddenly, and read with a slight French intonation. Registered at the Hotel Palace at Vevey are Mr. Pandely Vasco, Bonius, I don't exaggerate, Corina Medonka. These names are like crazy hard to pronounce, so be patient with me. Seraphim Tullio, Maria Amalia Rhoda Mace, Moise Dubel. Some more names that are really hard to pronounce. So he's listing people who live in the hotel. She attracts me most, Genevieve de Momus. Almost worth running up to Vevey to take a look at Genevieve de Momus. He stood up with a sudden restlessness, stretching himself with one sharp movement. He was a few years younger than Diver, or the bunch, or North. He was a few years younger than Diver or North. He was tall and his body was hard, but over spare space for the bunched gathered in his shoulders and upper arms. At first glance, he seemed conventionally handsome, but there was a faint disgust always in his face, which marred the full, fierce lustre of his brown eyes. Yet one remembered them afterward, when one had forgotten the inability of the mouth to endure boredom and the young forehead with its furrows of fretful and unprofitable pain. We found some fine ones in the News of Americans last week, said Nicole. Mrs. Evelyn Oyster and what were the others? There was Mr. S. Flesh, said Diver, also getting up. He took his rake and began to work seriously on getting small stones out of the sand. Oh yes, S. Flesh. Doesn't he give you the creeps? It was quiet alone with Nicole. Rosemary found it even quieter than with her mother. Abe North and Barbin, the Frenchman, were talking about Morocco, and Nicole, having copied her recipe, picked up a piece of sewing. Rosemary examined their apparatuses, 4 large parasols that made a canopy of shade, a portable bathhouse for dressing, a pneumatic rubber horse, new things that Rosemary had never seen, from the first burst of luxury manufacturing after the war and probably in the hands of the first purchasers. She had gathered that they were fashionable people, but though her mother had brought her up to beware of such people as drones, she did not feel that way here. Even in their absolute immobility, complete as that of the morning, she felt a purpose, a working over something, a direction, an act of creation different from anything she had known. Her immature mind made no speculations upon the nature of their relations to each other. She was only concerned with their attitude towards herself. But she perceived the web of some pleasant interrelation, which she expressed with the thought that they seemed to have a very good time. She looked in turn at the three men, temporarily expatiating them. All three were personable in different ways. All were of a special gentleness that she felt was part of their lives, past and future, not circumstanced by events, not at all like the company manners of actors. And she detected also a far-reaching delicacy that was different from the rough and ready good fellowship of directors, who represented the intellectuals in her life. Blue, sit. Sorry. Actors and directors, those were the only men she had ever known. Those and the heterogeneous, indistinguishable mass of college boys, interested only in love at first sight, whom she had met at the Yale prom last fall. These three were different. Barbin was less civilized, more skeptical and scoffing. His manners were formal, even perfunctory. Abe North had, under his shyness, a desperate humor that amused but puzzled her. Her serious nature distrusted its ability to make a supreme impression of him. But Dick Diver, he was all complete there. Silently, she admired him. His complexion was reddish and weather-burned, so was his short hair. A light growth of it rolled down his arms and hands. His eyes were a bright, hard blue. His nose was somewhat pointed, and there was never any doubt at whom he was looking at or talking. And this is a flattering attention, for who look at us? Glances fall upon us, curious or disinterested, nothing more. His voice, with some faint Irish melody running through it, wooed the world. Yet she felt the layer of hardness in him, of self-control and of self-discipline, her own virtues. Oh, she chose him, and Nicole, lifting her head, saw her choose him. Heard the little sigh at the fact that he was already possessed. Toward noon, the McCuskos, Mrs. Abrams, Mr. Humphrey, and Senor Campion came to the beach. They had brought the new umbrella they had set up, with side glances toward the divers, and crept under with satisfied expressions, all save Mr. McCusko, who remained derisively without. In his waking, Dick had passed near them, and now he returned to the umbrellas. The two young men were reading the book of etiquette together. He said in a low voice, planning to mix with equality, said Abe. Mary North, the very tanned young woman whom Rosemary had encountered the first day on the raft, came in from swimming, said with a smile that was a rakish gleam, "So Mr. and Mrs. Neverquiver have arrived." That was very stimulating outside, so I had to come back inside. So, they're this man's friends, Nicole reminded her, indicating Abe. Why doesn't he go and speak to them? Don't you think they're attractive? I think they're very attractive, Abe agreed. I just don't think they're attractive, that's all. Well, I have felt there were too many people on the beach this summer, Nicole admitted. Our beach that Dick made out of a pebble pile. She considered, and then lowered her voice out of range of the trio of nannies who sat back under another umbrella. Still, they're preferable to those British last summer who kept shouting about, "Isn't the sea blue? Isn't the sky white? Isn't little Nellie's nose red?" Rosemary thought she would have not liked to have Nicole for an enemy. But you didn't see the fight, Nicole continued. The day before you came, the married man, the one with the name that sounded like a substitute for gasoline or butter. McCusko? Yes. Well, they were having words, and she tossed some sand in his face. So naturally, he sat on top of her and rubbed her face in the sand. We were electrified. I wanted Dick to interfere. I think, said Dick Diver, staring down abstractedly at the straw mat, that I'll go over and invite them to dinner. No, you won't, Nicole told him quickly. I think it would be a very good thing. They're here, let's adjust ourselves. We're very well adjusted, she insisted, laughing. I'm not going to have my nose rubbed up in the sand. I'm a mean, hard woman, she explained to Rosemary, then raising her voice, Children, put on your bathing suits. Rosemary felt that this swim would become the typical one of her life, the one that would always pop up in her memory at the mention of swimming. Simultaneously, the whole party moved toward the water, super ready for the long force in action, passing from the heat to the cold with the gourmandise of a tingling curry eaten with chilled white wine. The diver's day was spaced like the day of the older civilizations, to yield the utmost from the materials at hand and to give all the transitions their full value. And she did not know that there would be another transition presently from the utter absorption of the swim to the garrulity of the provincial lunch hour. But again, she had the sense that Dick was taking care of her, and she delighted in responding to the eventual moment as if it had been in order. Nicole handed her husband the curious garment on which she had been working. He went into the dressing tent and inspired a commotion by appearing in a moment clad in transparent black lace drawers. Close inspection revealed that actually they were lined with flesh-colored cloth. Well, if that isn't a pantsy's trick, exclaimed Mr. McCusker contemptuously, then turning quickly to Mr. Jumfrey and Mr. Campion, he added, Oh, I beg your pardon. Rosemary bubbled with delight at the trunks. Her naiveness responded wholeheartedly to the expensive simplicity of the divers, unaware of its complexity and its lack of innocence, unaware that it was all a selection of quality rather than quantity from the run-of-the-world's bazaar, and that the simplicity of behavior also, the nursery-like peace and goodwill, the emphasis on the simpler virtues, was part of a desperate bargain with the gods and had been attained through struggles she could not have guessed at. At that moment, the divers represented externally the exact furthermost evolution of a class, so that most people seemed awkward beside them. In reality, a qualitative change had already set in that was not at all apparent to Rosemary. She stood between them as she took Sherry and ate crackers. Dick Diver looked at her with cold blue eyes. His kind, strong mouth said thoughtfully and deliberately, You're the only girl I've seen for a long time that actually did look something like blooming. In her mother's lap afterward, Rosemary cried and cried. I love him, Mother. I'm desperately in love with him. I never knew I could feel this way about anybody. And he's married, and I like her too. It's just hopeless. Oh, I love him so. I'm curious to meet him. She invited us to dinner Friday. If you're in love, it ought to make you happy. You ought to laugh. Rosemary looked up and gave a beautiful little shiver of her face and laughed. But her mother always had a great influence on her. All right, chapter 5. Rosemary went to Monte Carlo nearly as sulkily as it were possible for her to be. She rode up the rugged hill to La Turbie, to an old garment lot in process of reconstruction, and as she stood by the grilled entrance waiting for an answer to the message on her card, she might have been looking into Hollywood. The bizarre debris of some recent picture, a decayed street scene in India, a great cardboard whale, a monstrous tree bearing cherries large as basketballs, bloomed there by exotic dispension, autochthonous as the pale amaranth, mimosa, cork oak of a dwarfed pine. There were a quick lunch shack and 2 barn-like stages, and everywhere about the lot, groups of waiting, hopeful, painted faces. After 10 minutes, a young man with hair the color of a canary feather hurried down to the gate. Come in, Miss Hoyt. Mr. Brady's on the set, but he's very anxious to see you. I'm sorry you were kept waiting, but you know some of these French dames are worse about pushing themselves in. The studio manager opened a small door in the blank wall of a stage building, and with sudden glad familiarity, Rosemary followed him into half-darkness. Here and there, figures spotted the twilight, turning up ashen faces to her like souls in a purgatory, watching the passage of a mortal through. There were whispers and soft voices, and apparently from afar, the gentle tremolo of a small organ. Turning the corner made by some flats, they came upon the white, crackling glow of a stage, where a French actor, his shirt front, collar, and cuffs tinted a brilliant pink, and an American actress stood motionless face to face. They stared at each other with dogged eyes, as though they had been in the same position for hours, and still for a long time nothing happened. No one moved. A bank of light went off with a savage hiss, went on again. The plaintive tap of a hammer begged admission to nowhere in the distance. A blue face appeared among the blinding lights above, called something unintelligible into the upper darkness. Then the silence was broken by a voice in front of Rosemary. "Baby, you don't take off the stockings. You could spoil 10 more pairs. That dress is 15 pounds. Stepping backward, the speaker ran against Rosemary, whereupon the studio manager said, "Hey, Earl, Miss Hoyt." They were meeting for the first time. Brady was quick and strenuous. As he took her hand and she saw him look her over from head to foot, a gesture she recognized and that made her feel at home, but gave her always a faint feeling of superiority to whoever made it. If her person was property, she could exercise whatever advantage was inherent in its ownership. "I thought you'd be along any day now," Brady said in a voice that was just a little too compelling for private life, and that trailed with it a faintly defiant Cockney accent. "Have a good trip?" "Yes, but we're glad to be going home." "No," he protested. "Stay a while. I want to talk to you. Let me tell you, that was some picture of yours, the daddy's girl. I saw it in Paris. I wired the Coast right away to see if you were signed. I'm sorry. God, what a picture." Not wanting to smile in silly agreement, Rosemary frowned. "Nobody wants to be thought of forever for just one picture," she said. "Sure, that's right. What are your plans?" "Mother thought I needed a rest. When I get back, we'll probably either sign up with the First National or keep on with Famous." "Who's we?" "My mother. She decides business matters. I couldn't do without her." Again, he looked over at her completely, and, as he did, something in Rosemary went out to him. It was not liking, not at all the spontaneous admiration she had felt for the man on the beach this morning. It was a click. He desired her, and, so far as her virginal emotions went, she contemplated a surrender with equanimity. Yet she knew she would forget him half an hour after she left him, like an actor kissed in a picture. "Were you staying?" Freddie asked. "Oh, yes, at Goss's." "Well, my plans are made for this year, too, but that letter I wrote you still stands. Rather make a picture with you than any girl since Connie Talmadge was a kid." "I feel the same way. Why don't you come back to Hollywood?" "I can't stand that damn place. I'm fine here. Wait till after this shot and I'll show you around." Walking onto the set, he began to talk to the French actor in a low, quiet voice. 5 minutes passed, Brady talked on, while from time to time the Frenchman shifted his feet and nodded. Abruptly, Brady broke off, calling something to the lights that started them into a humming glare. Los Angeles was loud about Rosemary now. Unappalled, she moved once more through the city within parturitions, wanting to be back there. But she did not want to see Brady in the mood she sensed he would be in. I don't know why I'm reading so blocky. But she did not want to see Brady in the mood she sensed he would be in after he had finished, and she left the lot with a spell still upon her. The Mediterranean world was less silent now that she knew the studio was there. She liked the people on the streets and bought herself a pair of espadrilles on the way to the station. Her mother was pleased that she had done so accurately what she was told to do. But she still wanted to launch her out and away. Mrs. Spears was fresh in appearance, but she was tired. Deathbeds make people tired indeed, and she had watched beside a couple. All right. End of chapter 5. So that was good. Basically, she spent some more time with the couple. She mentioned again how she's in love with Dick Diver, and then she also mentioned that Nicole Diver noticed, like, the way that she was looking at him. But she also said she likes her. So getting complicated, and then she was on set of a movie, I guess. And that man liked her. So basically, I think the significance of that, like her acknowledging that someone else was attracted to her, is that you have to remember, like, this is a young woman, obviously first time being in love with anyone, so her eyes are gonna wander like a normal young woman being in love with a married man who's already committed to someone. So like you could see how that's not good on either ends. But yeah. And then also it said something about the mom being near people on their deathbed. I think that might be foreshadowing something else. Anyway, see you next time for the next chapter or chapters, depending on how long they are. All right, bye.